the key I wasn't supposed to have. When I moved into the apartment, they handed me a chunky ring of keys. Front door, mailbox, laundry room, all labeled neatly with little plastic tags. It wasn't anything fancy, just one of those old 3-story buildings with a ton of character, which usually means it creaks, smells like old paint, and every hallway light flickers like it's in a horror movie. But the rent was cheap, the location was decent, and I was broke. So I took it. About a week in, I noticed something weird. There was one key on the ring that had no label, just plain silver, older than the others, scratched up and slightly bent at the tip. I didn't think much of it at first. Figured it was maybe an extra copy of something, like, a backup laundry room key or something. But then I got curious, and I made the mistake of asking my landlord. She's this older woman named Bev. Sweet enough, but her memories shot to hell. I caught her outside, sweeping the walkway, and asked, "Hey, do you know what this key's for?" She squinted at it for a second, then shrugged. "Probably storage or something. Half the stuff down there's junk anyway." She waved it off like it was nothing. But the way she said, "down there," stuck with me. So that night, I went exploring. Behind the building, there's this narrow walkway between 2 cracked concrete walls, half overgrown with ivy. I'd never paid much attention to it. But if you squeeze through, you hit this rusted metal door with peeling paint and a busted handle. There was no signage, no buzzer, no mailbox. Just a door, tucked in a corner, like the building was trying to forget it existed. I figured, what the hell? I pulled out the mystery key, slid it into the lock, and it turned. Click. I stood there for a second, hand frozen on the knob. There was no reason I should have had that key. And yet there I was. So, like an idiot in every bad decision horror movie ever, I opened the door. It creaked. Of course it did. Inside it was clean, dusty, but not abandoned. A single room, maybe the size of a small studio. No bed, no couch. Just a little table with 2 chairs, a stack of newspapers, and an old lamp plugged into an outlet that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. And on the table was an envelope. My name on the front. No address, no postage. Just my full name and handwriting that looked almost like mine, but slightly off. Like someone trying to copy my style. I didn't open it right away. I just stood there, heart thudding, staring at the envelope like it might move on its own. Then I noticed the newspapers. There were 3 of them, all folded neatly, all dated. From last month, not a year ago, not 5 years ago. Last freaking month. But I'd only moved in a week ago. That's what really got me. The letter was creepy, sure. But the newspapers? That's what made the air feel too still. Like the room hadn't just been visited. It had been used, recently, and not by me. Finally, I picked up the envelope and opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed. Old-school typewriter font. A little smudged. It said, "You'll find this eventually." I'm sorry. There wasn't time to explain before. Don't trust the mirror in the hallway. Watch the lights. 3 flickers means they're close. The key you have opens more than one door. That was it. No name, no signature. Just that. I read it 3 times before backing out of the room and locking the door again. My hand was shaking so bad I dropped the keys. It took me a full minute to pick them up. When I got back to my apartment, the hallway light flickered. 3 times. I know how that sounds. I do. Like my brain was primed to see it, to connect dots that weren't there. Confirmation bias, whatever. But it wasn't just the flickering. It was the sound that came after. A soft knock. Not at my front door. From the inside of the hall closet, which doesn't have a lock, and sure as hell doesn't lead to anywhere. I haven't opened it since, and I don't use that key anymore, but I haven't thrown it away either. Some nights, I swear I can hear it jangling on its own. The girl from my dreams. It started maybe 3 weeks ago. The dreams, I mean. Every night, same girl. Maybe 6 or 7 years old. Black hair, straight bangs, wearing this faded yellow raincoat even when it wasn't raining. And she was always crying. Not loud sobs. More like quiet, worn-out crying. The kind where the kids all cried out but can't stop. She never spoke. I tried asking her name. Tried talking gently, asking where her parents were, what happened. But she'd just look at me with these huge eyes, tears on her cheeks, and shake her head. Then I'd wake up, same dream, night after night. Same girl, same expression. Like she wanted to say something but couldn't. It messed with my head more than I expected. I'm not someone who usually remembers dreams, but this one stuck. She felt real, more than just a figment of my subconscious or whatever. After a few nights, I started dreading sleep. Tried staying up, scrolling my phone until 3 a.m. Didn't help. She'd still be there, waiting. The weirdest part was how normal everything else felt in the dream. We weren't in some abstract dreamscape or twisted version of my house. It was always just a park, or a street corner, or an empty classroom. Mundane places. And then, her. Sitting on a swing. Standing near a fence. Once, curled up under a desk. Always looking up at me like I was supposed to do something. But I never could. Anyway, fast forward to last week. I was at the train station, waiting for the 7:42 into the city. It was crowded. One of those sticky mornings where everyone's too tired to talk, but too close to ignore. I found a spot on a bench and sat down, trying not to make eye contact with anyone. That's when I saw it. The guy next to me had his phone out, scrolling or checking something. For a split second, the screen tilted just enough for me to catch the wallpaper. It was her, the girl from my dreams. Same hair. Same face. Same yellow coat. I must have stared because the guy looked over, slightly guarded. "Sorry," I said quickly. "Your phone background. That little girl, is that your daughter?" He was quiet for a second. Too quiet. Then he said, "No. She passed away. Just like that. No details. No emotion. Just a flat, exhausted statement." My mouth went dry. I nodded, muttered some apology, and looked away. But I could still feel him watching me like he knew something. I couldn't help it. After he left, I looked around. No one else seemed to have noticed. I don't even know if he had noticed my reaction or if I imagined the whole vibe. But that night, when I finally fell asleep, she was there again. Only this time, she wasn't crying. She just stood across from me in some quiet room I didn't recognize. And for the first time, she said something. Not a name, not a word even. She just whispered, "Thank you." And then she was gone. I haven't seen her since. The calendar in the mirror. It started with a tiny detail. One of those things you almost don't catch at first. I was brushing my teeth, half asleep, standing in front of the bathroom mirror when I glanced at the wall behind me. The calendar I'd pinned up at the start of the year. One of those free ones they hand out at diners. Bad jokes on every page. February's was, "What do you call two birds in love?" Tweet hearts. Real quality stuff. But what caught my eye wasn't the joke. It was the date. The little red square that marked the current day was on tomorrow. I blinked. Checked my phone. It was the 10th. In the mirror, it was clearly the 11th. I turned around and looked at the real calendar. 10th, looked back in the mirror. 11th? At first, I chalked it up to being tired. Maybe I'd accidentally moved the marker forward while reaching for a towel or something. I reset the little red square to the 10th, brushed it off, and went on with my day. But the next morning it had happened again. 10th on the wall, 11th in the mirror. I stared at it longer this time. It wasn't reversed, not flipped like you'd expect in a mirror image. Just advanced, one day ahead. And weirdly, the handwriting, because I jot down notes on my calendar, was the same. Same pen, same sloppy letters, but one day in the future. On the 11th, I had written, "Call Mark about furnace," in the mirror. I hadn't written that on my real calendar yet. I didn't even know the furnace was acting up. I kind of laughed it off. "Guess I'll call Mark," I said out loud, just to amuse myself. Later that day, around 3 p.m., the heat kicked off. Completely. Middle of February. And my apartment dropped from comfortable to freezing in about 30 minutes. I called Mark, the building super, and sure enough, he said there was a pressure issue in the boiler room. Told me he was just about to call everyone on the second floor. Okay. Weird coincidence. That night, I stared into the mirror again, toothbrush dangling from my mouth. The calendar showed the 12th. My real one, still taped to the wall, was marked at the 11th. In the mirror version, I had written, "Don't go to work." That gave me pause. I work at a marketing firm. Nothing glamorous, but missing a day's not the end of the world. I called in sick the next morning. Stayed home, watched TV, did laundry. At 11:20 a.m., I got a call. There had been a small fire in the office kitchen. One of the interns had left a toaster oven on. No one was seriously hurt, but people were sent home early, and HR was sending out a safety reminder email about appliance use. Now, it wasn't funny anymore. The mirror wasn't predicting random things. It was me in the future writing those notes, or someone who could write exactly like me. I started testing it, wrote down a few fake plans, buy lemons, feed neighbor's cat, text Erica about Tuesday. Each one came true within a day. Even the cat thing, which was wild because I hadn't spoken to my neighbor in weeks, until he knocked that afternoon, holding a carrier and saying, "Can I ask a huge favor? My sister's in the hospital, and I need someone to feed Whiskers." It felt like a magic trick, or a curse I hadn't noticed yet. And then one morning, I looked in the mirror, and there was something new. A note I hadn't written. March 3rd, in my handwriting, but slightly shakier, like I'd been rushed. It said, "Don't answer the door." I didn't. That evening, just after sunset, someone knocked. Softly. Twice. I sat frozen on the couch, not moving. Another knock. Then silence. I looked through the peephole maybe 10 minutes later. No one there. But the next morning, taped to my door on the inside, was a note. "Good job," it said. That's when I started getting scared. Every morning, I'd check the mirror. And slowly, the notes stopped being suggestions. They became commands. "Stay home. Don't check the mail. Say no to the call." I obeyed, because I didn't want to know what would happen if I didn't. But curiosity is a hell of a thing. One day, I broke the rule. The mirror said, "Don't take the elevator." I was running late. Figured it was superstition. Between the 3rd and 2nd floors, the elevator shuddered, dropped maybe half a foot, and stopped. Emergency lights came on. I was stuck for nearly an hour. The building's maintenance guy said it was some weird sensor issue, but I knew better. That was the first time I disobeyed. and the last time anything was mild. The next warning came on a Saturday. "Don't cook tonight." I ignored it. Come on. What could happen? I burned my hand. Not a lot. Just enough to blister. Reached for the pan at the wrong angle, slipped, hit the burner coil. Hurt like hell. Coincidence, I told myself. Until the next one. "Don't sleep in your bed." That one I followed. I crashed on the couch that night, annoyed and uncomfortable. At 3:12 a.m., the ceiling fan in my bedroom fell. Cracked one of the wooden slats clean in half. Would have landed right where my head would have been. I started sleeping with the lights on after that. Then the mirror calendar started going blank. Just white boxes. No dates. No jokes. Nothing. For 2 days, it stayed that way. My real calendar remained normal. March was filling up with dentist appointments and meetings and grocery runs. Then, on the 17th, something reappeared in the mirror. Just one word. Run. No explanation. No time. Just that. I stared at it, trying to make sense of what that meant. When? From what? How far? That night I packed a bag. Drove to a friend's place across the state. Didn't say why. Told him I needed a break from the city. At 2:47 a.m., my apartment building caught fire. Electrical issue in one of the walls. My unit was gutted. The fire chief said if anyone had been inside, they wouldn't have made it out in time. After that, I brought the calendar with me. Ripped it off the wall. Took it to a motel mirror. No reflection. Only showed the current day. No predictions. Just dead paper. I tried hanging it in my friend's house. Nothing. The mirror there didn't play along. It only works in that apartment. And that apartment is gone now. Burned to nothing. But this morning, when I checked the bathroom mirror in my new place, just habit, really, I saw something. A new calendar, not my old diner one. A completely different style. Blue border. Floral print. Clean. Untouched. And one little note in the box for tomorrow. Why did you bring it with you? The innkeeper who knew. I hadn't planned to stay the night. Not in that town, and definitely not in that particular inn, tucked away behind a bend in a road I hadn't meant to take. I'd been driving all afternoon, following the GPS through back roads that twisted deeper into some quiet rural part of the state, when I realized my reception had cut out about 10 minutes ago, and I was just blindly trusting the last cached route. The sun was starting to set, one of those hazy golden hours where everything looks still and staged, and I figured I'd either keep driving into nothing or stop somewhere, anywhere, for the night. That's when I saw the sign. It wasn't the kind that lit up or tried to catch your eye with gimmicks. Just a wooden plank nailed to a post near a dirt driveway. Faded letters reading Minami Inn vacancy, as if it had been waiting there for years without expecting to be seen. Something about it felt off. Not wrong, exactly, but strangely expectant. Like the sign had been meant for someone. Maybe not even me. But I was the one who came across it. And since the sky was dimming, my stomach was growling. And the last place I passed had been a boarded-up diner 20 miles back. I turned in without thinking too hard. The driveway crunched under my tires as I pulled up to the building, which looked like it hadn't changed in decades. 2 stories, wooden siding, paper-screened windows, and that odd stillness you only ever see in places too small to advertise. I stepped out, grabbed my bag from the back seat, and walked up to the porch, expecting to knock, but before I could even raise my hand, the front door slid open, with the smooth, deliberate grace of something that had been practiced countless times. Standing there was a woman in a pale gray kimono, hair pinned back neatly, face composed in that careful, unreadable way that can either feel formal or deeply intimate depending on the context. She didn't ask who I was or whether I had a reservation. She simply looked at me and said, "Ah, you made it," as though we were continuing a conversation that had already started somewhere else. I blinked, still half in road daze, and said something like, "Hi, I was wondering if you had a room for the night." But she was already stepping aside, gesturing for me to enter, her voice calm and assured. "We've prepared one for you already." It caught me off guard, that phrasing. Not, "We have a vacancy," not, "Let me check," but "We've prepared one," like it had been waiting for me. Not available to anyone else, not open by chance, but specifically mine. I wanted to ask how she knew I was coming, or how she even knew someone would show up at all, but her demeanor made questions feel inappropriate, like interrupting a quiet song. So I stepped inside. The entryway was dim, lit by a low lamp casting amber shadows across wooden walls and worn floorboards. It smelled faintly of incense and something floral, faint enough that you almost didn't notice it, like it had soaked into the wood over the years. I waited by a short wooden counter, expecting paperwork, maybe an old-fashioned logbook to sign, but she didn't reach for anything. She just said, "Right this way," and began walking down a narrow hallway, lined with framed prints, landscapes, cranes, things I didn't really see because I was too focused on the sound of our footsteps, which felt too quiet for how solid the floor looked. We stopped in front of a door marked Room 3. She slid it open and stepped aside, letting me see inside. The room was tidy, almost overly so, with a futon already laid out on the tatami mats, a small tray with tea and 2 rice crackers on the table, and not a single thing out of place, as if it had been prepared with a level of care most hotels couldn't be bothered with. Before I could ask anything, she said, "Dinner will be ready shortly. You don't have any allergies," not as a question, but as a quiet confirmation. I nodded, not because she was right. I mean, she was, but because something about the way she said it made disagreement feel like a mistake. She slid the door closed and left me alone. For a few minutes, I just stood there in the center of the room, not tired, not hungry, just aware. Aware that something wasn't quite right. Not in a dramatic horror movie way, but in the way you notice a delay in your own reflection, or when someone calls your name and you don't know how they learned it. I sat down, drank the tea, ate the crackers. They were good. Better than I expected. I tried to tell myself the whole thing was just unusually good hospitality, but the longer I sat there, the more it felt like I wasn't a guest. Like I was part of the place, like it already knew me and had just been waiting for me to show up again. Dinner came 15 minutes later, right on cue, just as she said. No knock, no warning. The door slid open, and she entered carrying a tray. Grilled fish, miso soup, pickled vegetables, rice. It smelled incredible. She set it down gently, bowed slightly, and left without saying a word. I ate almost mechanically, noticing how the soup wasn't too hot. The rice wasn't too dry, and even the fish had been seasoned exactly the way I preferred, as if someone had been paying attention to details I'd never said out loud. Afterward, I wandered. The hallway was quiet, the other rooms closed. No other guests, no staff. Just the faint hum of the building settling into its age. In the lobby, I noticed a shelf with a few old books and what looked like a guest logbook. I opened it. Blank. Except for one page. Today's date, written at the top. No name, no check-in time, no comments. Just the date, as if the rest had been erased or had never needed to be written at all. That night, I lay on the futon staring up at the ceiling, listening for anything. The creak of a step, a voice, a distant knock. But the silence was perfect, too perfect. Around midnight, I finally started to drift off, but then I heard footsteps. Soft, barefoot. They stopped outside my room. I sat up, held my breath, but no one knocked. No one moved. Then, just as I was about to lie back down, I heard a voice, no louder than a breath, coming from behind the wall. "Is it better this time?" I didn't answer. I didn't move. I just sat there until morning. By sunrise, I'd made up my mind. I packed, dressed, opened the door quietly, and made my way to the lobby, determined to leave before breakfast, before questions, before anything else strange could happen. And that's when I saw it, taped to the wall near the exit. A single sheet of paper, yellowed with age, listing what I assume were previous guests. No header, no instructions, just a series of dates and a blank space. Except one entry, 6 years ago. One name, not mine, not anyone's, really. Just one word, handwritten in careful script. Returned. I turned instinctively, knowing what I'd see. And there she was, the innkeeper. Standing in the exact same position she'd been in when I arrived. Expression unchanged. "You're leaving early," she said. Not accusing, not surprised. Just noting a fact. I didn't respond. She reached out slowly, offering me something. It was a key. Room 3. I didn't take it. I stepped back, opened the door behind me, and walked into the cold morning air, the gravel crunching beneath my shoes as I made my way to the car without looking back. I drove for an hour before I got signal. I checked the map. No listing. No address. No Minami Inn. Just a patch of forest with no roads leading through it. And even now, I sometimes wonder, not if I imagined it, not if it was real, but whether one day, when I'm tired or lost or just not paying attention, I'll turn down a road I don't recognize and see a wooden sign behind the trees, and the door will already be open,